I don't know if you're watching your figure, but I sure am. And what a figure it is. Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, coming at you to review a movie from the early 90s, something from my childhood, obviously being a huge fan of the movie Rocketeer from basically the day it opened in theaters in June of 1991. I was instantly, as a 14-year-old, instantly just, as a heterosexual male 14-year-old, I was instantly just fallen in lust with Jennifer Connelly at the time. And I don't remember, it says like 1991, it says this movie's like copyright 91. I want to say I saw this movie on home video in the summer of 91, or maybe it was the fall of 91 or something. Maybe this came out early 91 and was out on video by late 91. I don't know. I was sure I was watching this on home video in 91. Anyway, I'm coming at you to review Career Opportunities. And I've been, I frequent half-price books every now and then for previously viewed Blu-rays and DVDs and stuff. And I've been, for at least the last 3.5 years, I've been keeping an eye out for this movie. And it just, I just was so sick of not finding this movie, so I just went for, it and got it on Amazon on DVD. For $10. I'm like, screw it, I'm so sick of looking for this movie used, I'm never going to find it. So I bit the bullet and got the DVD on Amazon, brand new for 10 spanking dollars or whatever, brand spanking new for $10. And only having it, of course, on VHS up until this point. And this is a movie that's one of these movies that's filmed like in the Panavision very wide ratio. And I think, so obviously the VHS version was pan and scan, so this is like the first time I was actually able to see the movie, of course this being widescreen DVD. First time I was able to see this epic, or this master opus, quote unquote, in the full, intended like Panavision-ish ratio. So let's get into the review. This movie, of course, I think is the first starring, it might be first and last starring, or movie starring role with whatever, his name escapes me right now, Frank Whaley. And it could be his first and possibly his last starring role. At the time, I think this was 91 as well, I was on home video the Freshman movie, or the movie The Freshman with Matthew Broderick, and whatever the Godfather's name is, I can't remember his name right now. And of course, Frank Whaley was Matthew Broderick's friend in that movie. They were going to film school. Marlon Brando is the name of the guy from The Freshman. So I was watching that movie on home video in 1991 as well. So I knew Frank Whaley, and like I say, this is, I think, his first and possibly last starring role. And of course, the second billing is Jennifer Connelly in her freaking prime, man. I don't know if you guys have seen, recent or more recent pictures of Jennifer Connelly. I just did the other day, and there's pictures of her jogging where her thighs are like, the size of my freaking bicep, my arm. And it's just like, oh my God, what the hell is, she shouldn't be jogging. You should be eating and sitting and gaining weight. Like, what the hell is she doing? But I don't know what the hell her mindset is now, but back in this day, man, Dario Argento would disagree. And I heard some interview with Dario Argento. I don't know if it was a Creepers feature or featurette or behind the scenes retrospective, but where he's talking about just being disgusted with kind of this version of Jennifer Connelly, and just, big, fat face and huge breasts, and just like that's a bad thing. What the hell are you talking about? But I mean, she's, her arms are kind of thick, and obviously her face is on the thicker side compared to what we're used to seeing now. But obviously, the rest of her actually is relatively slim. So this is my favorite Jennifer. I'm gonna break my neck. Favorite Jennifer Connelly look, incidentally. So just to set the record straight. But anyway, this is probably the movie she did right before The Rocketeer. And anyway, starting the review now. This movie is actually written by John Hughes. It's a John Hughes production, I want to say, and screenplay by John Hughes. And before I even start the review, I just want to say that having rewatched this recently, it very, very, very much plays like a John Hughes script that was rejected and just thrown in the the dumpster, and someone accidentally dug it out of the dumpster, or someone dug it out of the dumpster and accidentally made this movie. That's kind of how the movie feels. It feels like a movie a script that maybe John Hughes wrote when he, before he got big or before he was famous or anything or something like that, and maybe it just feels like it's a movie that was made by mistake, like the script was put in the greenlit pile when it should have been in the red light pile or whatever, or yellow to red, or just the recycle bin or whatever. First off the bat, that's very much how the movie plays to me. It kind of, yes, it kind of has the John Hughes feel a little bit, but as I said, it's definitely got that, rejected John Hughes script feel to it going in. Basically, this movie is about a small town. It's supposed to obviously take place in Illinois, I think, Chicago, Illinois, or something like that. Incidentally, it was made in Georgia. As a matter of fact, I mean, three of the main characters have Southern accents, well, I won't say main characters, three characters that show up in the movie, including the gas station guy, who incidentally also played Jake in the movie Blood Salvage around the same time. And I want to say one of the boys on the bicycles was also a featured player in the movie Blood Salvage as well, which was also shot in Georgia. This guy, whenever he's in a movie, a movie shot in Georgia, because this guy, I think, for most part, is only in a movie if it's shot in Georgia. So this was shot in Georgia, passing for Illinois, and I want to say even the house that would later on, right around the same time, be used in Basket Case 3 as Uncle Hal's house may very well be the same house that is used as the exterior for basically Jennifer Connelly's character's house as well. So that's some interesting trivia. And it's so funny that this movie is supposed to take place in Illinois, and you run across, a main character, her dad, and two other actors in this movie with Southern, accents. It's just kind of funny. Like, if you're trying to do a Midwest movie, you probably shouldn't be getting people with all those accents, but whatever. So basically, this movie's about this small Midwestern town, supposedly, and we're introduced to this character played by Frank Whaley. Is this kind of just, I think he's in his early 20s, still living at home, and he's just kind of lives in this, which is understandable. The real world sucks, so he lives in this make-believe world of fantasy, and just, this is the kind of thing kids probably do maybe when they're, early teens to mid-teens, and maybe even late teens, who knows, this kind of just fantasy land where they, he talks up to the kids in the town like he's this big shot guy and this and that, and he's a know-it-all when he's just kind of just a harebrained guy or whatever. And then early on in the movie, he's at the gas station. I can't remember. Oh, he's at the gas station talking to the guy who plays Jacob from Blood Salvage. And incidentally, it's funny that he's at a gas station in this role too. He's not a gas station guy in Blood Salvage, but he's kind of the same character, overalls wearing character. But that's why he's at the gas station at the beginning of this movie. Basically the beginning of this movie, he's fired from his job of just watching over animals and stuff, and just because he's just sitting on his ass and basically just talking himself all up and cool and, trying to impress these animals that probably don't speak English, and he's talking to the animals, trying to impress them with his lies and stuff like that. And at the beginning of the movie, he gets canned from this job. So the premise of this movie is him at the beginning being just canned, and his dad's like, you know what, if you want to live under this house and you're not paying, or if you want to live under this house and you're not going to school, you pay rent. So obviously the Frank Whaley character's got to get a job so he can pay rent, because he doesn't want to get kicked out, because let's face it, he likes living at home or whatever with mom and dad and the good meals and stuff. So that's why he's at this gas station at the beginning of the movie, and Jake is like, from Blood Salvage, is like, well, I'd hire you if I hadn't fired you so many damn times already. And the reason I'm mentioning him being at this place is because early in this scene, late at the last half of this scene, Jennifer Connelly's character, I want to say, gosh, I can't remember her name. Is her name on the back of this thing? Yeah, Josie McClellan, and instead of saying Frank Whaley's character all the time, I'll say Jim and Josie. So Josie is played by Frank Whaley. Josie is played by Jennifer Connelly, and she's the eye candy. Basically, it's kind of, in retrospect, looking at it now, it's just like she's pretty much nothing but blatant eye candy and just sexual object in this movie, which is, I don't know, I guess as a heterosexual male I'm fine with. But to a certain extent, when a character is, basically 98% just sex object, it's kind of, you can see how in some cases or some points of view it might be degrading, but right away, she pulls up in her, her dad's rich, so she's a rich girl, pulls up in her car to get, some gas, full service by Jake from Blood Salvage, and and Jim is just like puts on his shades and is just like just playing all cool, and Jennifer in her very sexy just kind of first appearance as Josie in this movie looks at him, and he's just playing all cool and actually makes her laugh. So things are going good until his dad. I'm not gonna do a beat by beat of the whole movie, but just this first part, things are going good with this little flirty moment until Jim's dad just grabs him and is like, "You got fired again? What the hell you doing?" And that kind of ruins this magical moment between them. But we'll just cut to the chase, and basically Jim is, trying to get jobs, I guess he's had before, and other jobs or whatever, and then he's basically reduced to, he doesn't want to get kicked out of his house, so he's reduced to going, basically this movie is a big, huge, basically a Target ad is what this movie is, a feature-length Target ad featuring Jennifer Connelly in a tank top. So whether you're a Jennifer enthusiast, a breast enthusiast, or Target enthusiast, or all three, or maybe Frank Whaley enthusiast, if you're one of them or all four, you're going to want to watch this movie. So basically, Jim reluctantly goes in for an interview at Target, and of course it's a John Hughes movie, so gosh bless him. You've got John Candy here in a little bit part where he just plays the store manager of this Target in the interview with Jim, and it's really funny because the scene is a big, huge misunderstanding, and John Candy's character as a manager at Target thinks Jim is this, I don't know, this super sales guy or whatever, with the, whatever college degree or whatever the hell you need to go and be a super sales guy at Target or whatever. John Candy thought that Jim was this other guy, like wanted the sales, some higher up position. So they're, they're playing hardball and juggling figures around of how much, how many $100,000 a year he's being offered to. I can't remember the amount, but for 1991 or 90, it's pretty high figure. Well, even for now, it's high. So of course Jim was like, holy crap, he's offering me, $200,000+ a year. This is better than, how come I didn't come to Target for an interview sooner? But what turns out to be happening, a kind of a funny scene or turnout of the scene is John Candy becomes made aware that the guy who he thought Jim is actually missed the plane, and this guy is just here for an hourly overnight cleanup boy, which of course he can only be offered, and it's kind of scary that they used this number even way back then, but $4.44 per hour is what John Candy, as the manager of Target, is willing to offer Jim for a night cleanup boy job. And of course Jim, not wanting to be kicked out of home, takes a job. So that's what this movie's about, basically, is, I guess it's basically his first night working overnight cleanup, and I think this is relatively unrealistic. I don't know what it was like back then, but I don't think Target, this is a thing that happens at Target where they just leave one person there overnight like that. And in particular, I don't think they lock them in. Maybe it was different in the early 90s, I don't know, but I don't think you can lock someone in case of fire or, other things going on. I don't think that's safe. But the premise of this movie is basically the whole movie takes place in Jim's first night as the night cleanup boy, and in this movie basically the premise is he's locked from basically until they close, until they open, in there all night, and he's basically by himself, just supposed to clean up the store and tidy up and stuff like that. And it should be said that William Forsythe makes a brief appearance as well as the kind of night cleanup boy's boss, or the main maintenance guy or whatever. So for your William Forsythe and fans, enthusiasts, you'd get a kick out of him. I liked him back then because he had just started as Flat Top in Dick Tracy. So, and of course he did that little bit in, I don't know if I'd seen it right around this time, of course, Out for Justice. So he did a lot of memorable roles right around this same time, and a lot of times, like you can take the role, this role and the Out for Justice role, and they're kind of the same role or whatever. But William Forsythe makes a brief appearance and leaves poor Jim to his own devices, all alone, locked into Target for basically from close until open the next morning. So, oh boy. So the reason I call this feels like a rejected John Hughes script is because it has an element that appears in a John Hughes movie right around, that came out right around the same time, has a Home Alone element, a very strong. I guess no. Let me take that back. Not a very strong, but a very weak. It's kind of like almost. It's almost like this is a rejected Home Alone script, to be honest, and they accidentally made it because there's a lot of parallels between this and Home Alone, where they've got the two robbers in this movie, just like Home Alone, and instead of being home alone, Jim is at work alone. So, like I say, it's like a rejected Home Alone script before someone revised it or something like that, is what Career Opportunities ultimately is. You got Dermot Maroney and I think his real-life brother playing these two robbers, and for my money, you can just, this robber shtick is not funny, it's not entertaining, it's nothing. You could completely not have it in the movie, and the movie would be probably better. The thing that I probably dislike the most about this movie is the robber aspect. I'm not going to talk too much about the robber aspect, but the movie actually opens with, I think, newspaper clippings or news reporting of, what the robber's done. So it's kind of this thing that goes on, and of course towards like the middle half of the movie or whatever, last third, the robbers end up at this particular target as well and cause mayhem and stuff in a scene which, is scenes that are just stupid and just dumb in my opinion. So, if I did a Nate cut of this movie, well, it'd probably just be Jennifer Connelly on the horse the whole 90 or the whole 80 minutes. But if I did a Nate cut of this movie, the robbers would not be in this movie. I think that element is just stupid, and it would have been a much better movie if the robbers had been left out. One thing that's kind of fun to see is this movie's a time machine in a lot of ways, to be able to go back and see like a late 80s, early 90s Target. I mean, there's this scene with Jennifer Connelly puts the music in where you see this whole row of audio tapes, music on audio tapes. And I don't know how old a lot of you guys are, but back in the day when they sold audio tapes at stores, since the cassette was so small, the way they kept people from stealing them was they put them in this huge, big, which you could still put in your coat, but this huge big plastic kind of cassette holder was an anti-theft device. So you'd shove them into the shelf and you'd pull them out, and it'd be this huge thing that they'd at the register they'd remove or whatever. But yeah, I mean that's probably the biggest thing of, with the exception of seeing all the tube TVs and VCRs and stuff, the music section where Jennifer Connelly is by all the tapes, and I was just like, oh man, I remember that. Oh my God! And incidentally, like there's the songs that were picked for this movie are actually really kind of cool. The soundtrack, I mean, the soundtrack in this case being just the the kind of the pop songs that are featured in the movie are really cool. And I was actually almost looking on eBay for the CD soundtrack, but one of my favorite songs isn't on it. The one that's she dances to, it's Nothing on My Mind or whatever. The one that's like sha la 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 la. You guys, I know you love it when I sing for you, but that song's not on the soundtrack CD. Otherwise, I would have probably ordered it on Amazon. But you can look up all the songs on YouTube, and they're pretty much all there for you to all there to listen to. But the soundtrack of some of the the songs, like in particular that one where Jennifer Connelly is looking at some stuff while Target's still open and stuff, and doing a montage of like putting things on to like steal or whatever. I mean, there's some cool. I'm spending way too much time with this, but we'll just leave it at that. That there's some cool late 80s, early 90s songs in this movie as well. So to be honest, I find the character of Jim, played by Frank Whaley, as being mostly annoying, and that could be one of the reasons why I think this movie more or less flopped. I just think, him talking to himself and talking himself up all cool, like doing it by yourself, I mean, talking to mannequins and animals and stuff, it's just, you think lying to kids is bad enough, but I mean, lying to mannequins and animals and stuff and just the air is kind of even more pathetic. So I kind of find the character, I mean, I like Frank Whaley, I liked him in The Freshman, and I think he's a likable performer, but the character of Jim, in my opinion, is just so annoying and just dumb. And once he first starts his shift at work, we just see all this montage crap of him doing all this stuff that's supposed to be funny, and it's just like not funny. And probably my least favorite of which is when he's wearing like just boxers and a tank top and just like a bride's thing on his head and roller skating around the aisles and stuff. It's just it's just not funny. Like, he looks so stupid, and it's just, why is he wearing the bride's thing on his head? And it's just dumb. But this is the scene where, he thinks he's all alone, but then all of a sudden Jennifer Connelly appears, and he's just like, Josie appears, and holy crap, that was surprising. What's so stupid about why she's there in the movie is that, well, she's this rich girl who's got hard times at home and all this stuff. Oh, we feel so sorry for you, beautiful rich girl. Oh, that her plan was to steal some stuff and get caught stealing. So I don't know, I don't know why, but that was going to show her dad once and for all or something. I don't know, really. There's really no good reason why she was going to do this. So get this, how's this for a rejected John Hughes script? The plot is she was in the dressing room and she fell asleep and then woke up after the store was closed. Are you kidding me? That's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And like employees don't go through the dressing rooms before they lock the doors. Like, how stupid is that? So that's one of the, besides the two crook guys, that's one of the stupidest elements of this movie that I think is just so stupid. So at one point before Jennifer Connelly comes in the mix, in the Target store, what's his name? Jim calls home just because he's lonely or something like that, and his parents, of course, are asleep, and he wakes the parents up, and I don't know, there's really no good reason for him to call home, just I guess he's lonely or whatever. But this leads to a scene, or a couple little bit scenes that I think are so dumb, where Jim's dad gets up. I don't know, I guess it's probably just filler, to be honest. Because it's just Jim's dad gets up, goes to the fridge in the middle of the night, and just sits down and like takes a chicken leg and puts it in a thing of peanut butter, and just like, it's supposed to be all gross and he's gonna eat it or whatever. And then the movie goes on back to Target, but then later on we'll come back to his dad one more time, just like cutting open like just whatever, sliced ham in a little sliced ham package or whatever the hell it is, the sesame. Well, I'm not a big cold meat enthusiast, I don't know what, but anyway, we just, there's two bits, really short bits, where Jim's dad is just seen at the kitchen table in the middle of the night just snacking on food, and it just, I mean, the scenes really aren't long enough to be filler. I don't know what the hell point that purpose those those scenes of Jim's dad eating in the middle of the night serve, but just supposed to be funny, I guess, not on this guy. So basically, once it's revealed that Josie is in Target, locked in Target with him, basically what proceeds to happen, of course, is they talk about this and that, and I guess she was most likely the popular girl in high school. This is a few years after they both graduated high school, and he, of course, was the geek and still is. And the progression their characters make is obviously just getting to know each other, and having her come to realize that they actually danced in some gym class or something like that, and her not remembering, and him remembering and wanting to finish the dance and all this kind of stuff. So it's just them talking about, I guess it's supposed to, I don't see, this is where I feel the movie just really doesn't really work, is you don't really feel sorry for the rich girl. And Jim is just annoying. So for me, I don't really connect with the characters, but obviously what happens after they start talking and stuff is they become, in a very, very forced way, I might add, they just, I don't know, it's really not realistic that this super sexy chick and this geek guy are going to get together. But of course that and ultimately is, as the movie goes on, is what's slowly happening. And she's, I can't remember why she wants to give Jim a favor, of course, expecting him to want some sexual favor, of course, but he's like, oh, I want to finish the dance, and she's like, I thought it'd be something else, and he's like, first things first. I can't remember what the reason for her wanting to offer him a favor or whatever even is, but obviously, they do this slow dance thing, it's supposed to be all romantic and stuff, and you're just like, it just, I don't know, the dialogue and stuff. I mean, where I guess it's kind of, I guess it's because I'm older than a teenager or early 20-somethings. Maybe that's why. I don't think it ever worked for me though. Just it's supposed to be kind of poignant, meaningful, back and forth dialogue and stuff. I mean, a lot of valid points are made and stuff about Josie brings up like, well, if you live at home, how are you supposed to find a girl and start a family and all this crap? Like, that's something that everyone's supposed to do anyway. Like, maybe I don't want to start a family. I want to find a girl, but maybe not start a family, because that's just bad. But so it's, the movie's trying to be all poignant with these I guess these two characters still trying to discover who they are or find their way in the horrible, cruel world or whatever. That's basically what it boils down to. So, obviously, as they become more romantic and whatever, and after the dance and stuff like that, there's the famous scene of them both roller skating around to, again, probably kind of a cool song and stuff. And at one point, oh no, before that happens, I think we're meant to, this is PG. Oh no, this is PG-13. So, but I think we are meant to assume that they end up hooking up and having some sex, or at least probably fool around a little bit. I think we're meant to assume they have some sex, or at minimum fool around a little bit up in that tent on the shelf, which in a really scary scene, they're like, the police officer comes back looking for Josie, knocking on the door, and it makes him fall off the top shelf of the tent when they're in it. It's just like, oh, that could kill you. But, so I think we're meant to assume they got it on, or at least, started to fool around and stuff in the tent. But after that scene, and after all's clear and all's well, it's the famous, roller skating around with, obviously at this time. And it's funny how they kind of saved the tank top look for maybe a little later in the movie. Like she's not, she's wearing like a vest thing over the tank top for a while, and I think maybe the roller skating scene is possibly when the vest kind of comes off once and for all. And once it does, I might add, there's a much more reason to watch this movie from here on out. But it's a famous roller skating scene where there's all kinds of shots of them. There's even some kind of bloopers in this montage of them roller skating, which is kind of funny. And again, it's just like her being all sexy and moving her hips back and forth. And luckily, I don't think he's dressed like he was before. So it's a little more watchable. But this is the scene where after all that fun is done and stuff. God, this review's going on way too long. Sorry. The roll into the criminals, and another plot point of this movie that's so stupid is like Jim's locked, they're both locked in this target. Well, how the hell the criminals get in, and they don't even explain that whatsoever. Like, okay, so Jim and Josie can't get out, but criminals can get in without tripping an alarm or anything. And what's so stupid towards the end of the movie when they go to, like, Josie fools them by thinking she's going to go with them and they're stealing stuff, it's just like they're going in and out of this building. Like, it's like carte blanche. Like, they don't even explain at all, one iota, how the hell these guys are getting in and out of the goddamn target. Of course, there's no way you could, so that's why they don't explain it. But basically, this is my least favorite part of the movie, of course, minus the Jennifer Connelly on the horse, riding the horse. Is when obviously these bad guys, these Home Alone characters, these two criminal brothers are basically show up in the target and hold Jim and Josie hostage and all this shit. And Jim for a while like fools them and gets them to give him their guns, and only to have them trick him back and say the guns aren't loaded. And then he gives them, like an idiot, gives them back, and he's like, I guess they are. But, so all of the shtick with the freaking robbers and holding them hostage and crap is just so stupid, except for like I say, the scene where she's on the little mechanical horse is one of the standout scenes from this movie, which probably could have been twice as long as far as I'm concerned. But basically what happens by then is, Jim and Josie have long since decided before this happened that she's got $52,000, in her pocket, so in a very unrealistic thing, Josie, I guess she feels afraid to take on the world by herself, so she'd rather do it with a geek. So basically invites Jim to travel the world or let's move to LA. I've got $52,000 in my purse. We need a car. And that, so that's basically what they planned to do until they got, accosted by these robbers. Well, she's going to come up with a great idea to, why don't I pretend like I'm going to go with them, and then then I'll steal their car. And then I'll come back and rescue you, and we'll take our $52,000 and we'll move to LA and be happily ever after. So, in a scene that I think is supposed to play like the audience not knowing whether she's actually going with them because she changed her mind or not, I think it's kind of stupid, because she tells Jim and the audience what she's going to do is pretend to be interested in going with them. So I don't know why Jim seems to be so worried that she's pretending to be interested to go with them, because that's exactly what she said she was going to do. And I don't know if she's supposed to trick the audience into thinking, oh gosh, maybe she actually decided to go with them. Well, it makes no sense, because she just told us, Jim and the audience, what she's going to do. But anyway, obviously she gets in the, they load up the bad guys, the two bad guys in her load up their car. She gets in it and just speeds away, and then they come back into Target, and Jim's so sick of being the fall guy, he grabs the William Forsythe's character shotgun, and when the bad guy, when the robbers come back in, he basically, in a really stupid scene, basically ends up, catching the bad guys and wrapping them up onto a couple Target chairs, and so the police can come and arrest the two bandits. The frickin', they're not wet bandits in this movie. They're just lame bandits, or dry bandits. So of course, Jim and Josie, go off to basically there's a little bit part where Jim spends the majority or the beginning of this movie lying to these three kids on a bikes, I think, and then of course at the end of the movie he shows up in a limo with he shows up in a limo on his way to work earlier in the movie, but at the end of the movie he shows up in this same kind of limo or whatever, and just for no good reason Jim and Josie just get out of the car and just to kind of impress the kids and then get back in it and drive away. It's just like whatever, but obviously Jim and Josie happily ever after end up in LA, and Jim looks at Hollywood sign and turns it into Jim Wood, and because earlier when he looked at the Target sign it turned into, I can't even remember what it turned into. Jim Get, I think. So so many stupid things about this movie. That's why it feels like a rejected John Hughes script. So that's my review. Probably the longest review in the history of the world of career opportunities. My review of career opportunities. I'm only going to be able to go, even though it is Jennifer Connelly in a tank top from the early 90s, I'm only going to be able to go 1.5 stars out of 4 stars. It's mostly a bad movie. Jennifer Connelly and actually some of the kind of early 90s pop tunes in the movie are some of the only real reason to watch this movie. Frank Whaley, like I say, I like him as a performer, but I think the character of Jim in this is relatively annoying. So thank you very much for watching my review of career opportunities, and as always, we'll catch you on the next movie review.